In the final months of World War II, a group of female German prisoners of war were held in an Allied enclosure outside the United States, a place where American troops were stationed, watching over them day and night. These women were exhausted, frightened, and unsure of what their future held. And then one morning, during a routine check, a young German woman quietly said a sentence that spread through the entire camp. "It hurts every time I sit." No one explained it. No one questioned it. No one understood it. Not until much later. Stay until the end to find out how this woman's experience changed her perception of Americans forever. As the German front collapsed, thousands of women serving in support roles, radio operators, clerks, anti-aircraft auxiliaries, were swept up in mass surrenders. They had marched for days. They had slept in barns, fields, and ruined buildings. They had eaten almost nothing, and they had been told repeatedly that American soldiers were dangerous. So when U.S. troops finally reached them, the women braced themselves. Some cried, some clutched each other, some refused to look up. But instead of shouting or threatening, the Americans simply directed them toward shelter. Still, the fear did not fade. Not yet. After Allied forces advanced, these women were placed in temporary Allied facilities where American troops were present. The women expected harshness. Instead, they were given blankets. They expected punishment. Instead, they were given warm food. They expected humiliation. Instead, they were processed quietly and respectfully. But fear is slow to turn into relief. The women whispered among themselves. They avoided the guards. They kept their distance. And the mysterious sentence, "It hurts every time I sit," would not appear until days later. Inside the enclosure, rumors spread faster than facts. Some women believed interrogations would be brutal. Others thought they would be forced into hard labor. A few feared something even worse, because German propaganda had painted American soldiers as violent and cruel. So every time a guard approached, the women stiffened. Every time a door opened, they flinched. Every time they were addressed, they answered cautiously. But the Americans didn't raise their voices. They didn't push or threaten. They didn't even touch the prisoners unless medical care was needed. Still, the women remained tense. They didn't trust kindness. Not yet. Days passed. The women were assigned simple tasks: cleaning, sorting supplies, preparing food. American medics checked on them regularly. Some women were treated for exhaustion, others for dehydration, some for injuries sustained before capture from collapsing infrastructure, long marches, or fleeing bombardments. Slowly, the women began to relax, not fully, but enough to breathe. And then came the moment that would confuse everyone. During a morning roll call, an American medic noticed a young German woman struggling to sit on a wooden bench. She winced, shifted, tried again. Finally, she whispered to the interpreter, "It hurts every time I sit." The interpreter froze. The women nearby looked away. The guards exchanged glances. No one asked questions. No one wanted to assume. No one wanted to know the answer. The medic gently approached her later and asked, "What happened?" The woman hesitated, looked embarrassed, and finally told the truth. She said, I have never eaten this much food in months." The medic blinked. She continued. "Before we were captured, we were starving. We walked for days. We had nothing. Now we eat 3 times a day. My stomach is full all the time. Sitting hurts because I'm not used to it." The guards exhaled. Some laughed in relief. Others shook their heads, stunned. The sentence that had sounded so ominous, so mysterious, so heavy, was simply the shock of being fed, cared for, and treated with dignity by the very soldiers she had been taught to fear. What it really meant. That sentence, "It hurts every time I sit," wasn't a sign of cruelty. It was a sign of recovery. A sign that her body, starved for weeks, was finally receiving more food than it knew how to handle. A sign that the world she had been taught to fear was not the world she found. For the first time in months, these women weren't running. They weren't hiding. They weren't bracing for the next explosion or the next order shouted in panic. They were simply safe. And safety felt strange. It felt unfamiliar. It felt almost impossible. But it was real. In that small enclosure, far from home and far from everything they had known, these women discovered something they never expected from the enemy they had been warned about. Kindness. Quiet. Consistent. Unremarkable kindness. The kind that doesn't make headlines, but changes people. Because often the story we think we're hearing isn't the story that's true. And sometimes the most surprising thing in a war zone is simple humanity. This is a true World War II story inspired by the lived experiences of German women who surrendered to American forces and were surprised by their treatment. Because sometimes kindness is the twist no one expects. Do you agree? Let us know in the comments and subscribe for more true World War II stories.